We had been building a life together for years, but suddenly I saw the truth. One false statement and one test, and their faces immediately changed. I realized that for them, I was not a wife, but just a source of funds. This story will show how I forced the truth to come to light and why I finally dared to leave. This is not just a story about a divorce. This is a documentary evidence of what betrayal looks like within your own home. Jenna woke up to the clang of keys. It was 6:45 a.m., and Scott was already on his way back to their apartment. He must have spent the night at his mother's again. This has been happening more and more frequently lately. She put on a fleece robe and went out into the lobby. "Hi," the husband muttered, taking off his work boots. "Try not to wake Mom. She didn't rest well." "Is your mom here?" Jenna felt her insides tighten. "Scott, we've come to an agreement. She wasn't well yesterday. Her blood pressure was racing. I just couldn't leave her alone." Patricia Calhoun emerged from the kitchen in a homemade muumuu with a mug of herbal tea in her hands. "Jennifer, good morning. Don't be mad at Scotty. He's such a caring son. Here, I've made breakfast, oatmeal with homemade sausages." Jenna silently went to the bathroom. The mirror reflected the haggard face of a 30-year-old woman who had felt like an outsider in her own home for the last 6 years of marriage. A studio apartment in a new apartment complex in Boston had been their shared dream, but now it seemed like her mother-in-law was in charge here, not her. Jenna worked for a large transportation corporation, serving as a senior specialist in the logistics department. Her salary was consistently higher than that of Scott, who worked as a construction foreman, so she paid the bulk of the monthly mortgage payment. The husband contributed his share regularly. The project schedule shifted. The salary was not given on time. Over breakfast, Patricia Calhoun talked in detail about her housemates, reality TV shows, and how much food prices at the Whole Foods supermarket had risen. Scott agreed, occasionally interjecting remarks. Jenna ate her porridge in silence, thinking about the day ahead. "Jen, could you finish early today?" Scott asked. "Mom wants to go to the Mayo Clinic, and I'll be at the work site until late at night." "I have an important conference at 1800 hours. "Well, reschedule it somehow." "Scott, this is my job. My job is the reason we're paying for this apartment." Patricia Calhoun pursed her lips. "Of course, career is more important than family." "I understand." Jenna put down her fork. Every morning began exactly like this, with accusations, claims, and a sense of guilt that these two imposed on her. The news greeted her at the office. Her boss, Michelle O'Connell, called her in immediately after the morning meeting. "Jenna, I have a special offer for you. We are launching a new division, providing supplies for the Pacific market. We need a development director. Your salary will increase by 35%, plus bonuses from the results." Jenna felt something flutter inside her. Is this a promotion? You could say that. Are you ready to take on additional responsibility? Of course I'm ready. That's great. We are registering starting from Monday. But don't tell anyone yet. We'll officially announce it as soon as all the documentation is completed. Jenna couldn't concentrate on her tasks all day. A raise, an increase in income, new horizons, finally something positive in her life. But the closer the evening got, the more the unusual feeling grew. Her husband and mother-in-law were waiting for her at home, who perceived her solely as a financial resource and a target for reproaches. When she returned home, Scott was sprawled on the couch, staring at his smartphone. Patricia Calhoun was busy in the kitchen. "How are you?" the husband asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "It's fine. Mom said that the tenants from the next apartment were turning on the music loudly again. We should go talk to them." "Well, you're better at negotiating with people." She looked at her husband, a 32-year-old man who was unable to solve the simplest domestic problem without her intervention. When did it start? When did she become for him not a spouse, but a universal coordinator of all issues? The dinner was held in a familiar atmosphere. Patricia Calhoun complained of back pain. Scott talked about the difficulties at the construction site. Jenna listened with half an ear, thinking about her new assignment. Is it worth telling, or is it better to wait for the official registration? "By the way," said the mother-in-law, helping herself to an extra portion of cabbage salad, Barbara from the neighboring house has problems with her husband. Imagine him demanding that she earn more, and she has two small children. A sensible guy, Scott replied. The family needs to be provided for. Jenna choked on the water. That is, how is it reasonable? Well, how else? If his wife can bring in more money, why not? But what does he do? He's working, but he doesn't make much money. Jenna put down her fork and stared at her husband. Doesn't he realize what he's saying? Scott, don't you think that in a marriage, financial responsibility should be shared? Therefore, everyone should make the maximum contribution. Maximum, Jenna repeated. And what does that mean? Well, whoever is able to earn more should. Patricia Calhoun nodded in agreement. That's right, the Sun says. If God has endowed a woman with earning abilities, it is a sin not to use them. Jenna got up from the table. Her stomach was boiling with indignation, but she restrained herself. This dialogue clearly showed her what she had suspected for a long time. In the eyes of her husband and mother-in-law, she was not a person, but a function, the function of obtaining funds, solving problems, and providing convenience. The next day, Michelle O'Connell's office solemnly announced her appointment. My colleagues congratulated me and wished me success. Jenna smiled and thanked me, but her thoughts were completely different. In the evening, while she was walking home, an idea matured in her head. Risky, but necessary. She needed to make sure if her marriage had really turned into a deal where she was the only party providing resources. At home, the furnishings were standard. Scott was watching a sports channel on TV. Patricia Calhoun was knitting in the kitchen. Jenna sat down in the chair opposite her husband and took a deep breath. I have something to tell you. Scott reluctantly looked up from the screen. What's wrong? I'm expecting a baby. Silence. Patricia Calhoun dropped her knitting needles. Scott opened his mouth, but no sound came out. And I got fired from my job today. That's where it started, which is exactly what Jenna expected to see. Patricia Calhoun jumped up from her seat so abruptly that she knocked over her chair. What? She screamed. What have you done, you idiot? Scott paled and swallowed convulsively. Jen, are you sure about the baby? The analysis showed a positive result yesterday morning. No, I'm talking about getting fired. Patricia Calhoun flew up to Jenna, waving her arms. Do you realize what you've done? We have a mortgage loan, student loans, and you managed to lose your position. How can you be so irresponsible? Mom, don't scream, Scott asked weakly. Don't scream? The mother-in-law was beside herself with rage. Your wife ruined our family. Pregnant and unemployed. Who's going to need you now? Jenna sat with her hands folded in her lap and watched this dramatic scene. Everything was happening exactly as she had expected. No one hugged her, supported her, or told her that everything would be fine. Only panic, accusations, and hysteria. And the termination of pregnancy? Scott suddenly asked. We can have an abortion. Patricia Calhoun clapped her hands. Well done, my boy. Abortion, of course. Immediately. And look for a new job. Scott, Jenna said softly, are you seriously suggesting that I get rid of our baby? We are not financially ready. And when will we be ready? When? When will you find a new place? When will things get better? Patricia Calhoun sat down next to her son and took his hand. Scotty's right, baby. You can't give birth in such a situation. Irresponsible. Irresponsible? Jenna asked. Responsible is to turn on the brain, Patricia exclaimed. Don't encourage poverty. We already have a lot of money. Mom is absolutely right, Scott nodded. We can't afford a newborn right now. Jenna got up and went to the window. A light rain was falling behind the glass. People were hurrying home under umbrellas. Somewhere out there were couples where husbands supported their wives rather than demanding concessions from them. And if I don't agree to an abortion, then we're all dead, Scott said gloomily. I won't be able to make the mortgage payment alone. My salary won't be enough. And what do you suggest? First, find at least some position, and then we'll see later. Patricia Calhoun nodded eagerly, like a wind-up doll. Exactly. First employment, then offspring, not the other way around. And if I don't find a job quickly, employers are reluctant to hire expectant mothers. You will, the mother-in-law snapped. You are capable, you earned well, so you can do it again. But I'm already expecting a baby. It can be hidden for now, Scott suggested. Don't talk in interviews. Then, when you're ready, then what? Well, we'll see. Maybe the pregnancy benefits will be impressive. Jenna whirled on them. The husband slumped on the couch, covering his head with his hands. His mother-in-law stroked his back, murmuring something comforting. So you're suggesting that I cheat a potential employer? But what should I do? Scott threw up his hands. You put us in this position yourself. Did I drive it? Of course you are. I should have been more careful and not relaxed at work. Patricia Calhoun stood up and walked over to Jenna. Honey, I understand how hard it is for you, but you have to learn that family is the main priority, and family requires sacrifice. Sometimes you have to give up your personal desires for the sake of general well-being. It's entertaining, Jenna remarked. Is Scott sacrificing anything? Scott is working hard. He provides for the family. Provides? His income is barely enough for his own expenses. But he's a man, a breadwinner. And me? The mother-in-law faltered. And what about me? And you have to help. She should be smarter. I have to think about the consequences. Scott lifted his head. Jen, let's avoid any scandals. We'll find a way out. You go to the clinic tomorrow, find out all about the interruption, and at the same time you're looking for a job. I'll look for something extra too. Extra? Well, some kind of side job on the weekends. Aren't you planning to change your main job to a higher paying position? Scott blinked in confusion. Why? I have a great understanding with my colleagues there. I see. Jenna went into the bedroom and locked the door. She needed to be alone to process everything she had heard. But even in solitude, she didn't feel surprised. Everything was predictable down to the smallest detail. Scott knocked on the door 30 minutes later. Jen, can I come in? I'm sorry that Mom yelled. She's worried about us. For us, for the family, for the future. Scott, tell me frankly, do you want a baby? He paused, choosing his phrases. Ever? Of course I want to. Someday. And now? Now. Now is not the right moment. And when will there be a suitable one? When will the financial situation improve? So when will I find a good position? Not only when we both get a steady income. Jenna sat up in bed, tucking her legs up. Scott, if I hadn't lost my job, would you have been happy to be pregnant? He hesitated. Probably. Yes, probably. Well, we could have done it. Us or me? What do you mean? Who would get up to the baby at night? Who would take him to the pediatricians? Who would be on parental leave? Well, it's natural. You're a mother. And who are you? Father. And what exactly is father doing? Scott was completely confused. Provides. Educates. Does he provide, that is, earn money? Yes. And if I earn more than you, then who should support the family? Both of them. Then why should I be the only one with the baby? Because that's the way it's done. Patricia Calhoun's voice came from the kitchen. Scott, go have dinner. The meatloaf is getting cold. I'm coming, Mom, he replied and got up from the bed. Jen, eat. We will start solving these difficult tasks tomorrow morning. When he came out, Jenna lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she will go to the office, where she will receive a raise and an increase in salary. And 2 people are waiting for her at home, who see in her only a source of income and a way to fix their problems. She was curious, but what would happen if she really lost her job and became pregnant? How long would it have taken Scott to formulate a reason for a divorce? Or would he just drive her to a nervous breakdown with his pretensions and excessive maternal care? There were voices in the kitchen. Scott was telling his mother about the conversation in the bedroom. She advised something, sighed, expressed shock. They discussed it like a faulty household appliance. What should I do? Fix it or throw it away? Jenna picked up her phone and opened the calculator app. New income, mortgage payment, utility bills, groceries. With her upcoming earnings, she could easily maintain this apartment alone. Moreover, life would probably be quieter. But first, it was necessary to bring the experiment to its logical conclusion. Jenna woke up early in the morning. Scott was still asleep, and Patricia Calhoun was already bustling in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Dishes clattered, the coffee maker puffed, the familiar sounds of someone else's presence in her home. "Good morning," my mother-in-law greeted when Jenna appeared in the kitchen. "Sit down, I'll feed you. You especially need to eat well right now." Funny, Jenna thought. Yesterday she was yelling about abortion, and today she's taking care of prenatal nutrition. "Thank you, but I don't have breakfast at home. I'm in a hurry." "Where are you in a hurry? You were fired for an interview." Patricia Calhoun nodded approvingly. "Good girl. The main thing is not to talk about pregnancy and dress loosely so that the belly is not visible." Jenna looked down at her flat stomach and grinned. "I'll definitely take it into consideration." She was greeted at the office as usual. Colleagues did not know about yesterday's dismissal, so the day passed in a working rhythm. Jenna immersed herself in new responsibilities, studied contracts for the Pacific area, and phoned potential suppliers. Scott called her around noon. "How's the job search going?" "Nothing concrete yet." "Were there any meetings?" "Alone this morning." "They said they'd call you back." "I see. Will you go to a medical specialist?" "I'll go." "Jen, don't be mad at Mom. She's worried. We're all worried." "I know. Can we talk quietly tonight? We'll find a solution to this problem." "Of course." Jenna hung up the phone and went back to her paperwork. Her work consumed her completely. Finally, there was something that depended solely on her, where she could demonstrate her abilities without regard for other people's selfish motives and claims. Michelle O'Connell dropped in on her in the late afternoon. "How is the work going with the new project?" "Excellent. I have already contacted 4 potential suppliers, analyzed the pricing policy of competitors." "That's great. By the way, representatives of the Singapore company are coming tomorrow. I would like you to be present at the negotiations." "Absolutely. And one more thing. The official registration of your leadership position will be completed on Monday. The HR department prepares contracts." Jenna nodded. So she had a few more days to continue her social experiment. At home, the usual scene was waiting for her. Scott was lying on the couch with his phone. Patricia Calhoun was cooking dinner. The plasma screen was playing some kind of daytime talk show about family conflicts at full volume. "How was your day?" asked Scott as she took off her shoes in the hallway. "In different ways." "That is?" "One interview seemed promising, but I won't know the result until next week. I'm going to another one tomorrow." Patricia Calhoun looked out of the kitchen. "And what will be the compensation package?" "I don't know yet. We only discussed responsibilities." "But we need to clarify everything right away." The mother-in-law was indignant. "You're wasting your time." "Payment issues are usually discussed during the second stage of the interview," Jenna explained patiently. "Have you seen the doctor?" "I'll go tomorrow." "We need to hurry up. We must not delay." During the meal, the conversation turned back to finances and expenses. Patricia Calhoun was meticulously analyzing the receipts. Scott was worried about the mortgage obligation. Both of them looked at Jenna with anxiety and hope. "Maybe we should consider the implementation of our condominium," Scott suggested. "Let's get something more modest without burdensome debt." "And where will we find something cheaper?" asked Jenna. "Well, on the periphery or in a neighboring neighborhood." "Scott, this apartment is already located on the very edge of the city. Then there's only the nature reserve. Then let's look for something in the suburbs." Patricia Calhoun supported her son. "That's right. In the suburbs, the air is fresher and the cost of housing is lower." "How will I get to my place of work?" "When you get a job, take the commuter train." "Others get there somehow." 2 hours each way." "Well, not 2, an hour and a quarter." What if I find a high-paying job, but I have to stay late or go on business trips? Scott wondered. Then, then we'll see. Or you'll find a better paying job, and we'll stay here. Me? He was surprised. Why should I look for another job to earn more? I have a normal salary. But it's not enough for a mortgage. I had enough when you were working. Scott, your income covers a third of our regular expenses. So what? But I have a stable place, a great team. Patricia Calhoun confirmed. Besides, a man should choose a job he likes, not just for the money. Should a woman? A woman should be more reasonable. I must understand that marriage is the art of compromise. Jenna put down her fork. I wonder what compromises Scott brings. What kind of compromises? The mother-in-law was indignant. He married you. I made a commitment. Obligations for what? For your family? For your wife? And what responsibility did I take? You have to be a good spouse, support your husband. That is, to make money. Not only that, but that too. Scott tried to intervene. Mom, don't. Jen, let's not talk about this today. Why won't we? Asked Jenna. I'm interested in understanding the logic. What kind of logic? The logic of family responsibilities. I get more money, which means I have to pay more for my apartment. I'm a woman, so I have to babysit. I know how to communicate with people, so I have to resolve all conflicts with neighbors and in the HOA. Am I right? Well, everyone should do what they do best. What do you do best? Scott hesitated. I'm physically fitter. I can lift weights. And when was the last time you lifted weights for our family? Recently, when we bought a refrigerator a year ago, the delivery guys brought it in. But I could. What else could I do? I can drive a car. We don't have a car. But if there was, if only. Excellent. Patricia Calhoun stood up from the table. Jenna, why are you bothering your son? A man doesn't have to account for every step he takes, but a woman does. Of course, a woman is the keeper of the hearth. Then why should the keeper of the hearth earn more than the breadwinner? Because times have changed. Of course, times have changed, but only for women. Men have remained in the same role, lying on the couch and demanding security. Scott turned purple. I'm not demanding. I'm working. You work as long as you feel comfortable. No more. Are you working more? I worked overtime for 3 years to get promoted. I took extra courses in the evenings. I went on regional business trips on weekends. No one forced you. They forced me. The mortgage forced me. The need to support my family forced me. But it was your decision to earn more. Jenna got up from the table. You know what? She said calmly. I want to tell you something. Scott and Patricia Calhoun looked at her warily. First of all, I'm not pregnant. Secondly, I wasn't fired. On the contrary, I was promoted, and my salary increased by 35%. Silence. Patricia Calhoun opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I wanted to test your reaction, to understand how you would behave in a difficult situation, and I understood everything. Scott slowly got up from his seat. So you were cheating on us? I was conducting an experiment. What kind of experiment? An experiment on the willingness to be a family. A real family where people support each other, not use each other. Patricia Calhoun flew up to her. How dare you deceive us? And how dare you demand an abortion from me? We were worried about the family. For your family or for your comfort? Scott panted. Jen, I don't understand why you did that. To see if our marriage has a future. And what did you realize? That there is no future. Jenna went into the bedroom and took out a travel bag from the wardrobe. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. What? For a divorce? Scott shouted. Because of some stupid check? Not because of the check, because of the test results. She packed several sets of clothes, important documents, and cosmetics into a bag. I'll rent a place for the first time. With the new salary, I can easily pull the rent. What about the mortgage? Scott asked in a panic. The apartment is registered to me. I will sell it or pay it myself, as I decide. But we're married. We have common property. We have a mortgage condominium, which I mostly paid for. I think the court will take this into account." Patricia Calhoun clutched her heart. "Scotty, say something to her. She's destroying the family." "Jen, let's talk calmly," Scott pleaded. "We'll sort it out. I will try to change." Jenna zipped up her bag and turned to her husband. "Scott, in 6 years of marriage, you've never tried to change. What has changed now?" I realized that I was behaving incorrectly." "You realize that you could be left without an apartment and without financial security. These are different things." She headed for the exit. "Think carefully," Patricia Calhoun called after him. "You won't find husbands like my son anymore." Jenna stopped in the doorway. "I hope I don't find it." A month later, the divorce was finalized. Scott didn't resist, apparently realizing that there was nothing to lose. Jenna kept the apartment for herself, paying Scott a small compensation for his share of the down payment. Patricia Calhoun tried to call her and make trouble, but Jenna just blocked her number. Her new job completely absorbed her attention. The project with Dutch partners was developing successfully. The salary made it possible to live comfortably. Sometimes she met acquaintances who sympathetically shook their heads and said that she shouldn't have rushed through the divorce, that she had to fight for the marriage, work on the relationship, and look for compromises. Jenna was smiling and silent. She knew she had made the right choice. Now she had her own life, where she made her own decisions and was responsible for them, where no one demanded sacrifices from her in exchange for empty promises. And Scott? Scott remarried 8 months later with a girl from the neighboring department of his firm, a quiet, easygoing woman who was ready to admire his wisdom and provide for his convenience. Patricia Calhoun was pleased. Jenna found out about it by accident and felt neither resentment nor regret, just a slight sense of relief that she had not made a mistake in her decision.